Hey folks, I'm Chris and I'm your Commander Mechanic. This week in the workshop, we have a submission from premium patron Jerome Lewis, who writes, "Hi Chris, I have a list built around Obeka Brute Chronologist and politics effects. These get everyone involved and may incentivize other players, allowing me to end their turns early. The biggest current issue is that I've got a lot of cards in here just for the potential value or interaction, and I'm not certain what to cut or keep to make the deck work." First of all, thank you Jeremiah for becoming a patron and supporting the channel. We've taken a look at Obeka here on the channel once before, but not quite in this lens. It's very interesting to see this kind of deck in this kind of light. Obeka is a Grixis Ogre Wizard with a really unique effect. You can tap her, and the player whose turn it currently is can choose to end the turn. Typically, you want to be using this for yourself to wipe away any at the beginning of the next end step effects that may exile tokens or even lose you the game. But you're choosing to do something a little different here. The idea of saying, well, you could give up the rest of your turn rather than let this spell resolve is a neat little knife at the throat of your opponents. Looking at your list, there are some really great choices that emphasize your political theme. Korvath's Fury, Split Decision, and Scheming Symmetry all get your opponents involved in your spells and the pace of the game. You've got some great ways to hold them captive too, like Captive Audience. Though in Commander that really may feel like singling out that one player. But Ludwig, Necro-Alchemist, Humble Defector, and Xantcha Sleeper Agent are all creatures that encourage the political aspect of the game too. Who players are attacking, who they're giving creatures to, and when they're activating abilities. I really like the concept here. So the first thing I see right away is that your curve is very high. Almost 4 mana on average. This means that, even with your mana rocks, you're going to need a minimum 3 land hand in order to ensure you're hitting all your drops. Part of this is because your mana rocks are all at 3 mana value, like Chromatic Lantern, Obelisk of Grixis, and Commander Sphere. If we bring the cost of these down, then we mitigate the chance of having a 2-land hand be a non-starter, crossing our fingers for that 3rd land. This is a pet peeve and a personal preference, but you're also running Reliquary Tower and Thought Vessel, but are rarely running the risk of drawing cards where that'll matter. Build your deck around what you can do, rather than what your opponents may do. As you mentioned when you reached out to me, it looks like you've got some cards included here that are for the sake of just having them, not necessarily because they fit the theme. I see Possibility Storm and Warp World, classic chaos elements, that are in the deck for really no good reason. Warp World in particular doesn't seem to do a lot of good because you're very spell heavy. About 30% of your list is a whiff with a Warp World. Your creature base is also a head scratcher. While you have a bunch of politically minded spells and abilities, some of your creatures are just big for the sake of being big. A Chroma Angel of Fury, for instance, doesn't really serve a purpose in the deck. And Arami of the Dead Tide is normally great, but your creatures don't take advantage of their enter the battlefield effects, or the benefit of negating their sacrifice triggers with Obeka. Additionally, with your 16 creatures in the list, 6 of them are legendary and don't work with Arami to begin with. I think there's a bit more we can do to play around with this. So if I were to help adjust this deck, keeping the political aspects in mind, I'd include cards that can be double-edged swords, meaning that can help us or hurt us in equal measure, but that we can control thanks to Obeka. This way we can cast the spells or abilities on our turn, and if we don't like the outcome, we can simply nope out of the turn with that Obeka ability. A great example of this is the new Technique cards from C21. Creative Technique, Incarnation Technique, and Replication Technique. These can double up for you, provided you give an opponent a copy in exchange. It's a great political tool, but if it goes entirely sideways, you can just stop the turn with Obeka if you choose. We'll want to buff up some of your creature count too. A lot of what we can do with Obeka with our theme is about temporary effects, which we can then make permanent. For instance, threaten effects on creatures like Molten Primordial or Zealous Conscripts or even Coercive Recruiter fit into your theme of manipulating opponents, but Obeka can mitigate that end of turn effect. Evoke creatures are particularly good here too, playing more to Obeka than the political aspects, but still used for great effect. Classics like Muldrifter are great, where you can end the turn with that evoke trigger on the stack to keep the creature. but we've got new evoke creatures in Fury and Subtlety that are awesome. Used to play around with your reanimation effects, political tools, and extra useful with Obeka's ability. Leaning further into the political aspect, you can include some more effects that swap permanents around. You're running Reigns of Power, but what about Role Reversal and Wrong Turn? Great ways to get in someone's good books by giving them something of their opponents. And one of my favorite political cards should definitely find a home in here, Bloodthirsty Blade. This equipment makes your opponents attack each other, and you can move it around to the biggest threat to ensure it's not aimed at you. All fantastic for what you're hoping to achieve. And lastly, let's clean up the nuts and bolts. For your card draw, let's keep Temple Bell but lose Howling Mind. Let's make these effects do something rather than just provide a benefit to your opponents. Moving your card draw over to effects that involve your opponent's libraries is more in theme with what you're doing. Stolen Strategy, Keen Duelist, and Cunning Rhetoric are good turn your deck against you cards that fit your theme. Your mana can be cleaned up slightly. Let's include a Talisman of Creativity over some of the 3 mana rocks, but let's ensure to put in Victory Chimes. This is another political tool that can either make you a colorless mana on each opponent's turn, or curry favor by helping them ramp. One of the biggest things I think you can do here to upgrade is your mana base. Shock lands are a solid investment to upgrade this deck, but can always be used later in other decks with the same color combinations. The Bond lands are great as well. The ones from Commander Legends are still very affordable, though the ones from Battle Bond have steadily been creeping up in price. Still, the same can be said. They're great and are always going to be useful in this deck or finding a home in others. Additionally, a Consecrated Sphinx would be a super add to the deck, especially if you're using a Temple Bell to draw people cards. I would include more Everybody Draws effects if this is the case. That way you turn the political aspects and the favor that you're gaining from your opponents back in on yourself and breaking that symmetry. So here's our list. You can check it out in the description below. We've bulked up your creature count, put in some more ways to interact with your opponent's boards, and potentially win some favor with them with some spells that benefit everybody, or just whoever you choose. We'll be killing your opponents, but we'll be making sure they're smiling and think that we're doing them a favor the whole time. Let me know what you end up doing with the deck, Jeremiah. Be sure to share your final list with everyone as well. And for everybody watching, be sure to let me know in the comments what you think of this deck, and if there's anything in particular you would add. Until next time, folks, good luck and have fun. A big thanks to all of our patrons, without whom I wouldn't be able to keep doing this. A special shout out to our Lodestone Golems, Ben Frayne, Sterling Langford, Will Briggs, Ben Davis, David Norrie, Corey Whitaker, Snipes, and Cameron Scott, and our Metalwork Colossi, Austin Charlotte, Charles Olson, Matthew Chandler, Pulsating Kiwi, Jim, Raphael Lum, Wyatt M, Timothy Conan, Matt Oakes, Stephen Dunn, and Jeremiah Lewis. Thank you, everyone.